welcome. My name is Patrick Rolf and this is Coffee with April. For this episode, we're in the roastery and we brought a guest with us. Some of you might know this guy before. For those of you that don't, I'm going to give a short introduction. We actually did a podcast together way back in Taipei, in Erik's apartment, talking about coffee brewing. So tune in on that if you haven't already. Erik here is a lot of things, mainly a coffee professional that works in the world of green coffee, also a brewer's competitor, also an inventor of a new coffee brewer, which we at some point are going to feature here. Erik has promised me. And it's really good. I tried it myself. So it's endorsed before it's even launched.
Thank you very much.
For sure. But more about that in a later video, right? What the real reason why Erik is here today is because we're trading green coffee from TriUp, Erik's green coffee company. And we'll go into more details about that. And Erik is going to give you the pitch so that you know what's actually happening. I'm just going to, before that, transition a little bit into why did we do that and what have we done before, right? So as you know, we're focusing on trading direct on all of our coffees pretty much. Now, direct trade is nuanced and a bit complicated. A little bit depending on where you are in the world. And there's two countries specifically that we trade from that makes it the most difficult. And that's going to be Ethiopia, it's going to be Kenya. And that's where Erik comes in, right? And we decided also to make this even more complicated that we're not going to trade cooperative coffees anymore, which makes it more difficult.
It's a little bit difficult.
It's a little bit difficult, right? So basically, another challenge, which we're definitely going to talk more about in this video, is I personally believe that Ethiopian and Kenyan coffee is getting worse. So the quality is getting worse, mainly because they're volume-driven production countries where most of the new varietals being planted is basically resistant varietals in various shapes and form, right? So resistant varietals is, let's say, traces of Sashimor, Timor, or Robusta-like varietals to increase yield and decrease the amount of different diseases in coffee. So that over time has led to a lower quality. And part of the challenge with that is because in Ethiopia and Kenya, the people involved on the ground is trying very hard to not sell specific farm coffee and very hard on going, doesn't matter what you buy, everything is amazing, right? Now, long story short, why we ended up with Erik is because we had some challenges with the previous single farmer projects we've been having. And the majority of those challenges came from a dispute or a discussion of overall quality over the last seasons, which we weren't as happy with as we wanted to be. And it's hard for us to find someone with enough experience in Ethiopia and Kenya that understands our perspective on green coffee and also understands the quality we're looking for. Now, me and Erik goes way back. We've known each other for quite some time now. So Erik is very aware of what I'm looking for in coffee, almost to the extent that he almost didn't want to sell us coffee because he knows how difficult we are. But the thing is, I can't think of one single person in terms of running a green coffee company that's been visiting Origin as much as you have done. And this guy is impossible.
I'm pretty sure that there are some
There's always some, right? But I think what's interesting for me at TriUp and with you then, of course, is that there's an understanding for what really good coffee is. Because you're involved in the coffee competition scene. You have tasted my coffees over a very long time, basically since the very beginning at April, right? Because he invited me at an event in Taipei many, many years ago. So you have an understanding for what we're looking for, right? Plus, you're always in Ethiopia or Kenya, right? And I'm not because we're running a business. So it's from a roastery perspective, that is the hardest point. And in countries like Ethiopia and Kenya, and maybe that's a question for you, could you even say that the concept of direct trade is possible? Like, is there such a thing as direct trade?
Basically, for Ethiopia and Kenya, it's very difficult because the farm size is so small. So even though you try, for example, if you're looking for a ton or 2 tons and then you want to buy from a single farm or a single producer, you have to look at the size of the farm. Most of the producers are only having the backyards and then they plant some coffees, waiting for the coffee to, the cherries to ripe, and then they pick up and then deliver to the station. But, you know, like it's basically very difficult to work with one farmer like a random farmer and just said that I want to do a direct trade with you. So basically for Ethiopia and Kenya, that is like a very, very tough job to do. But right now, like if we're doing like a single farmer project, it's definitely going to be slightly bigger in size, that they maybe have maybe 7 to 8 hectares of land, and then they are producing some coffees. To be honest, like the production yield is not so much, so that you need a bigger land and then to have the amount of the coffees. And of that, you can say that you are doing a direct trade. But at the same time, you still need some other people to take good care of the processing and then to do, basically to track every details about if the production is good or not. So basically, direct trade in African countries like Ethiopia and Kenya is just basically very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that it's something that you can do if you're not very quality focused.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Like if you don't look too close at the coffee, if you don't do too many measurements, and you're not too concerned over that overall quality of every single bag you get, then I think maybe you can. But we all know that if a roastery comes in and they order, maybe not one in small volume, but let's say they come in and order a container of coffee from one farmer. Yeah. They're going to fill that container regardless of if that coffee is from that farmer or not.
Yeah,
that's just the reality.
That's true.
And I think that's a side of specialty coffee that is not discussed enough. And at APO, obviously we love our producers. Yeah. We're super happy that they want to work with us. Yeah. But it's also a conversation we have continuously with them, because there is a clear history of misconceptions about this, right? Yeah. Producers are business people just as anyone else, especially since most of the coffee in Ethiopia is traded to an exporter. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So there's an exporter on the ground that is selling the coffee to either an importer then, or let's say another roastery, right? Yeah. But it's very rare that it's, hi, Mr. Farmer, I'm wiring you some cash and you're sending me coffee, right? That's not how it works, right? No. Because a farmer, either they sell the coffee to a process station, which is why it's so hard to find we talked a lot about this, why it's so hard to find a single farmer washed processed coffee.
Very difficult.
Because if it goes into a washing station, it just tends to disappear, right? Kind of, or it's very hard to actually trace it. But if you do a natural process, it's easier, but then those cherries are still sold to a dry mill, right? Do you want to walk us through a little bit about that value chain, how it actually kind of works from farmer picking those cherries to leaving Ethiopia? Yeah.
So mostly the most common concept is that we're buying from stations. And the stations are mostly working with maybe up to 200, 300, sometimes like 1,000 of farm holders. We call it farm holders because, they have the backyard and then they plant some coffees, or the coffees are there. Sure. And then waited for the harvest season, and they harvest the cherries and then they deliver to the station for them to process. So basically the value chain goes from the single farmer. They collect the cherries, send to the stations, and the station kind of like collect every farmer's harvest and then make it into one lot and then send it to exporter. Then exporter will process the coffee, milling, and then send the coffees to importer. So basically that's how the value chain is. But this is not something that we are looking for, right? No. Because it's very, very difficult for if you're focusing on quality and then, like mixing so many people's coffees, there might be some issues, or there must be an issue. Yeah.
There's always some issues. And I think, again, it's hard also from, you're sitting at home, you're drinking coffee. It's hard for the coffee drinker to relate to those the challenges, right? Yeah. And I think one of the main thing is, and it's true for the wet mill part and it's true for the dry mill part, is that every season you have X amount of time to process that coffee. Yeah. You will make sure to process it. Yeah. You're not going to stop your whole operation, take everything out just to have one single lot individually traced.
That's true.
That lot is going to be shipped in, and a little bit of the beginning of that lot is mixed with whatever was before. Yeah. And a little bit of the end is mixed with whatever came after, right? Yeah. Just like when you do any kind of really production, right? Yeah. Basically, you're always going to have that issue. The issue with production is closing off your machines and putting in a new model and then starting them again, right? Yeah. You don't want to do that. And it's very true in coffee as well. So traceability, even though it's communicated, is very rarely true. Yeah. Or the version of traceability is not as precise as we like it to be, right? And then if you have a coffee roastery like April, that becomes an issue because we're very concerned with the green coffee quality, right? So that's why we do now with Erik, which is really cool. We do vacuum packs. So every lot comes in the batch size that we're roasting, which we definitely believe is going to improve quality as well. And with all the measurements we're doing, we're then going to kind of try to grow together and make sure that this coffee becomes better and better and better and better, right? And it's not just Ethiopia. We're also doing this in Kenya, which is super exciting. So saying that you won't buy any more Kenyan cooperative coffee makes life very complicated. But it's something I'm very serious with. And the reason for that is because there's no other origin where coffee has declined so much in quality.
Kenyan is a very, very good example of how climate change and how the culture affects the quality. Especially for single farmer, like small farm holders as well. Like the same concept of Ethiopia. In Kenya is the same. The toughest issue for them is the cash flow. And I think we can talk about this for a short while, but basically the concept is that the farm holder, they collect the cherries, they deliver to the wet mill. The wet mill is registered under cooperatives, and the wet mill collect everyone's coffee again as one lot, and then they send to the auction under the name of the cooperatives and the wet mill. So basically, if I were a farm holder, I collect the cherries, deliver to the wet mill, I only get one receipt. And then I cannot get the cash. So I have to wait maybe like 3 to 4 months till the money comes down. And I don't know if I bring the good cherries, if that is going to be better for the pricing.
You actually don't know what the price is, right? So what they do is that they sell it for a decided price way before cash in hand. Right? And we see it. I mean, so TriUp doesn't just trade in Ethiopia and Kenya. You guys trade in a lot of different countries now, right? And we see this is a process that is very true it's true in Central America, it's true in South America, where companies like, let's say Nestle, no offense to Nestle, but it's a good example where, you know, they would jump on a truck, drive to the farmer, give you some cash and take the cherries, right? And I think we have to respect and understand that the socioeconomic situation of a producer in these countries is very different from the one of a roaster in Copenhagen, right? So they have a very different perspective, right? So that's why it's important when we discuss this, we're not judging anyone or the process of the value chain, right? We're just trying to show you guys a little bit of insight, and this is how it actually works and the challenges that comes with it. And then on top of that, we have Kenya and Ethiopia, where again, try to find a clean SL28. Like try to find that. There are a lot of people that claim that there is. But if you actually visit, you walk around, you see the trees.
You know that it's actually a mix of everything.
Yes, you're gonna see some chunky Parthian trunks and Rio 11. And they will taste like earth in your coffee, and that's just the reality of it.
And also on the palate is a little bit rough.
For sure. I mean, Kenyan coffee. I remember, you know, back in the days, I even won a Brewers Cup with a Kenyan coffee.
When?
In the first Brewers Cup I won, actually. For Brazil. Capsicisia. On the border to Uganda. It was pretty cool. Anyway, without dragging out this too long, I think you guys have a little bit of insight on what we're going for, and we're really looking forward to work with Erik. Do you want to just give them a little pitch? Like, what is TriUp? Why should they buy from you? Buy from him, we do.
So TriUp is a company based in Taiwan. The Tri actually stands for 3 roles. So one is us, TriUp Coffee. The other is the producers. And the last one is the roasters. So one of our main philosophies is to improve together. So whatever that we do, we try to improve together with the producers and the roasters. So we constantly collect the feedback from the roasters, and we want to match them to certain farmers or producers so that we can work in long term and to improve year by year. So basically, that's what we've been doing, and I'm enjoying it very much.
Awesome. It's been super cool because I've known Erik basically before TriUp, right? Or like right in the beginning at least. So I've seen the development, and it is very impressive. And I think it's hard for me. Like back in the days, you had importers where you could, just look at the list and you knew the coffees were amazing. And I think that's not true today. So it's getting harder and harder to find really high quality stuff, right? So that's why we teamed up with Erik on this. And again, we have full transparency, we have full overview and everything, right? So it's direct in a modern way. I don't know. Yeah. Again, like direct trade becomes complicated, and most people saying they're pitched direct in Ethiopia, even though they again pitched or Kenya, they buy transparent pricing, all of this, right? It's still not direct in the sense that it's not a cash transaction to a farmer's account and coffee getting shipped. Yeah. It's more complicated than that, and it has to be, and it's not a bad thing, right? It's just a necessity, right? Yeah. Before we go though, we do need to talk about your brewer. I don't have it right. We're not allowed to actually show it.
Not yet.
Maybe you want to explain why we're not allowed to show it. Like, what are you up to?
So basically, the dripper, the new brewer, is kind of like for competition so far, and we're gonna officially launch it maybe at the end of the year. I don't have the name yet, but I think by that time we already have it.
Oh, you're not gonna launch it in Taiwan for the?
We're gonna launch it in Taiwan for the coffee show.
Yeah.
Awesome. But now, like between this time is for competitions. Yeah. And then, so this dripper, I think is going to change how people think of the extraction a little bit. Definitely very interesting one to try. And at the same time, because for me, like I built up this dripper based on my role as a green bean buyer and as the one who visits the farm in the world. And I see the decline in production. So I just want to cherish every single coffee bean I have and then take fully advantage in extraction.
That's a really cool way to pitch it, actually. And I never quite heard that version of it. And I'm going to say this, also like true coming from me, where it's a very different way to brew coffee.
It is.
That tastes good. Yeah. Which is cool, because a lot of the times, and you see this often in the competition world, you do different for the sake of being different. Yeah. Not because it actually tastes better, right? Yeah. There's just, not that it doesn't taste good, but it doesn't taste better, right? Yeah. And I've always been a big believer in if you make something new, you better make it tastier in a way that is noticeable for any coffee drinker. And I think this brewer is actually a great example of that, right? So we're going to get Erik back here. Maybe we recorded it in Taiwan, actually, because I'm going to try to come. Yeah. And then we're going to get him back in, and then we're going to talk about it. We're going to brew it. We're going to share it here. And I'm sure we're going to have more green coffee stuff. Hopefully we're going to do some green coffee trips coming up as well. Yeah. So you'll see more of Erik on this channel. We are going to wrap this up a little bit. If you have any comments or ideas, you always just write them below. Sign up on Patreon if you want the good stuff. Erik, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram, and then we have a website, actually, a beautiful website.
Of course, yes, which we're going to link to all of it down here. Yeah. So just have a look at it, right? If you have any questions on Ethiopian and Kenyan green coffee, you're more than welcome to comment below. At the point where this video is live, we for sure have the Ethiopian coffee from Erik. The Kenyan coffee is coming.
On the way.
Yeah, we're working on that. With that, we just want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you to Erik for coming down.
Thank you.
And I wish you guys a good day. Yeah. We want to give a special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to continue to make these videos. And we want you all to feel free to always come with suggestions and ideas on the content that you want to see, because we are doing this for you and because of you. Thank you from all of us here at April.